federal employees, it's important to understand what we know so far and what could happen, to read through all the hysteria and just understand what is actually happening at this point and what could potentially happen with the budget reform. So yesterday, the budget reform moved on from the oversight committee and has now moved to the budget committee, who is now in charge of finalizing it before presenting it before the House to be voted on. And so there still can be changes made to the legislation, but here's what we know so far and some things to be aware of as federal employees. There's three key things to be paying attention to and what we know at this point before it's been amended before final vote. The first thing is for switching from High-3 to High-5. And we're getting a lot of questions as far as, does that affect me if I took the deferred resignation or I'm retiring this year? Well, as of right now, that is for people who retire after January 1st, 2027. So if you are taking the deferred resignation, if you are retiring this year, then it should not be a High-5 for you if it goes through as it is written now. They might change that again, push that back even further after it gets through the budget committee. But as of right now, that is for people who retire after January 1, 2027. Then you would switch to a High-5 from a High-3. Now, when it comes to the supplement and the elimination of the supplement, the way that the verbiage is written right now, before there are any changes, and the good news is, as you've seen a lot of articles and have heard from a lot of the House, they anticipate some changes being made. So hopefully that's the case. But before changes are made, as it's written right now, as soon as the president signs it into law, let's assume that it passes as is, if it does pass, and then it gets on the president's desk and they sign it into law, the verbiage states that new retirees would not get the supplement. Doesn't matter if you've already filed, but if you retire after this goes into law, as of right now, the way that it is worded, you would be losing the supplement. For those of you who are already retired, you're not at risk of losing the supplement. If you've already retired and you're receiving the supplement, you're not at risk of, the way it's worded right now, of losing your supplement. So basically, anybody that retires and their official retirement date is after this is signed into law, then it says new retirees would not get the supplement. So if you're taking the deferred resignation, you're retiring this year, you want to keep a close eye to make sure that they amend that to hopefully grandfather it. Of course, we hope that the supplement is not eliminated at all, but if it isn't eliminated, at the very least, hopefully they add some kind of grandfather clause for maybe people that are 2 years, 5 years out, or new hires, some kind of alteration and amendment, hopefully, to now prevent people that are retiring this year and taking the deferred resignation, the fork in the road, the VERAs, the VSIPs. All of that is happening this year. If you're under the age of 62 and your retirement date is after this goes into law, you could be missing out on the supplement. So you want to keep a close eye on that. If that is not amended, that does not change, you would want to change your retirement date to before this goes into law if you're under the age of 62 and you really want the supplement. So you want to make sure you keep a close eye on that. But the good news is we do anticipate, and I say we, I'm just saying what we've seen in articles and what we've been seeing from both sides, really, that they do anticipate making some changes, and it is common when it does get to the budget committee to make some amendments before it is actually put into law. So we'll keep a close eye on that. And the last thing that is going to affect federal employees is the percentage that federal employees pay is going to increase potentially, as is right now. It would be increased for federal employees what you pay into the FERS system, especially. So we want to take a look at that. One other thing that I forgot to mention on the supplement, the verbiage in there does state if you're under special provision, mandatory retirement such as firefighter, law enforcement, air traffic control, you would not lose the supplement. But for regular FERS, anybody under the age of 62 and your retirement date is after this goes into law, the new retirees would lose the supplement. So we'll keep a close eye on this. It's going now to the budget committee, and then they're going to amend it for final preparation and voting. It says for later this month, later in May is all we see so far. We don't have a hard date that I've seen. If you've seen a hard date, put it in the comments, but also reference your source so that we know it's legitimate. But as of right now, it says to be voted on later this month in May. So we'll keep a close eye on all of that. That is what we know so far as of right now.